Hey there, it's great you have reached up to this point. In the previous topic, we have discussed the recursion part and we have solved few problems related to that. Now, we'll work with the classes and objects. And this topic is important in terms of creating the next topic, that is your linked list and your trees. So, for the data structure that we are going to discuss after that, for that purpose, we have to study this topic. Okay, and also we'll see over here, like in this content, if you see, we'll discuss the Java framework, we'll see the environment of it. It just there are some like extra discussion I have done over here, which is actually with respect to the DSA. It's not generally needed, but I have discussed it just to clear out the basics. So we'll discuss the framework and the environment. Okay, generally we need this topic for the other data structures like linked list and trees. So that is the one thing. We'll discuss some basics, we'll discuss the classes and objects and its creation. We'll discuss, we try to understand what is the meaning of constructor in Java. Okay, and all these things like we are going to discuss using a memory diagram, like every concept over here. So this is basically belongs to a very basics in the Java that is ultimately going to help you out in many of the other programming application design or whatever you will be going to do. These topics are very much basics for that, and it is going to help you out in many cases in future. So I would recommend, this is a general topic. It's not required to have a previous knowledge or previous lectures knowledge, and you can study directly from here also. Okay, so let's dive into this. So in this, the basically why we need this topic. This topic is mandatory in terms of creating data structure of linked list, for example trees. All right, and we can solve few problems related to that. We'll come to that point in the next lecture. For these two topics we are going to do that part. Okay, for now let's deep dive into the Java framework basically. So in general, like when you set up your Java environment in your computer, there are three things that is going to like installed in your system. For example, that is your JDK, okay, JRE and JVM. So JDK is Java Development Kit, JRE is Java Runtime Environment, and JVM represents Java Virtual Machine. These three things are very key role, having a key role for the for setting up a runtime execution environment for your application or for your program. All right, so after doing the setup of these things, you are basically having a all the necessary tools that is used for developing a program with respect to Java. So this Java JDK contains every libraries and tools so that you can write your program. Okay, so that you can write your program. This JRE, now whatever program you have written, this JRE is going to execute that program for you. So this JRE basically you can consider it's a kind of a execution environment that it will give you to execute your program. Okay, now this JVM is a kind of a virtual machine. It's a virtual machine that is going to run inside JRE. Okay, and it is going to execute your code. Means this will, it's a kind of a uh, machine, a virtual machine that is going to take your code, and it is going to run in machine level language. Okay. And it will, basically it will execute your code. Okay, it will execute your code inside the JRE environment only. Now what this JRE environment is doing internally, we'll discuss the internal process of this thing. Okay, so this is one part. Also uh, we'll discuss the some concepts, like some programming concepts, that how to create a class, uh, and how to create an object, what is the meaning of object. All these things we are going to discuss over here. Okay, so if I further move on to this topic, we have some topics in the OOPS. So OOPS represent object orientation programming. Okay. Okay, now what is the use case of this object orientation? So generally, like, if you see, uh, this concept comes to solve, you can assume to solve real world problems. Okay, to solve real world problems. Now what are real world problems? For example, a person, let's suppose a person going to bank and deposit money or transfer any money, basically. So this person entity that you see, it is going to bank and it is depositing the money. So here three things actually happening. Okay, so when a person do this work, let's suppose if he is doing this task every day, so it's a very it's a very repetitive process in which he may be wasting lot of time, wasting time, in which process, like, he is going to bank every day, and no, there he is to do every process. Okay, so this thing, this thing you can code in your program, and you can avoid this process by a person, which is actually happening in the real world. So this type of scenarios is, if you compare like shopping, a person going to market, okay, and buying or shopping. All right, so this ultimate goal is to deposit money. All right, ultimate goal is to do some shopping. All right, or to buy something. So whatever the things that is happening by a person. So person is a real world entity, and whatever he is doing, okay, there are a lot of time that is having a waste in going to that particular place and doing out some transactions. So OOPS basically provide a solution for this uh, problem. Okay, so what actually, after when Java came into the picture, and when world is get united, or basically you can consider when globalization came into the picture, when every market of one country start communicating with uh, different market of different country. So globalization started, and people start doing transaction to each other, maybe on phone calls, or maybe on by you know uh, physically going to that place and doing their market stuff. Okay, so some of the things that uh, for for example, for buying uh, anything from the market, or sending money, or depositing money, all these things can be done virtually, people start thinking about that. Basically, uh, the developers that are present in Java community, all right, that is a event of like early of 1990s. Okay, so there is a whole history behind that, but I don't want to like take your so much time into that. I'm just going to describe like then what is the like how it is has been solved. So in the OOPS concept, Java community like has provided uh, the developers of Java basically. For example, the Java is developed by James Gosling, so he's the key player behind uh, creating the Java features. Okay, so what they have thought about some OOPS concept where you can create your virtual entity. Okay, so virtual entity can be a person over here. Okay, and this person can you can do many activities. You can describe this person using its internal features. Okay, so here this is a live entity. Okay, but there could be a non-living type of entity. For example, a university. Okay, for example, a bank. So in our case, uh, this deposit of money is taking place inside a bank. All right, and this bank is nothing but a entity only, which is a non-living type of a entity, but it can also be represented in code. Okay, so how it can be represented? Using a class like that. So class bank, and this is the representation of a bank where it is having a functionality for deposit money. That could be a method. Okay, that could be a method like that. It could also be a method that describes transfer money. Okay, it could also contain some parameters or variables. So like that, this whatever be the functionality that banks holds, everything will be designed inside this entity only, inside this class. Okay, similarly you can have a entity for shopping mart, for example this one. Okay, you can have a for example, you can have as in real, you can see Amazon app, you have Flipkart app for the shopping, you have a Paytm also in that case to transfer money or to buy anything from the Paytm. Also you can have, so like that you can have some shopping mart type of app. Okay, where you can define this shopping mart just like an entity, and there you can people start having a method called buying type of a method, where people can call this method and start buying stuffs, whatever with the shopping they want to do. Okay, so this is just the representation. Class represent, it's a kind of a, you can assume a class is a type of a virtual entity that represents blueprint of any real world entity and its behavior. Okay, so if I talk about behavior, so doing any transaction, all right, anything that you see over here inside a class, these transactions, for example depositing a money, transfer a money, or like that, if you have, these are nothing but the representation. This represent the nature of that particular class, this represent the behavior. So this behavior you can define for every class. All right, so for example, for a shopping entity, a person is going to buy something. So buying is a behavior, okay, that you can represent like a method, okay. uh, Similarly, you can show some product details. So showing a product detail is also a behavior. All right. So like that, you can design so many behaviors based on the entity type. Okay. Whatever be the entity, based on that, you can define all its rules. Basically, what it's doing, how, what is the nature of that thing. That all you can define inside a methods. All the events basically. Okay. So like that, we can define any class. Okay. So it represents the basically the blueprint of any real world entity. Okay. Now in OOPS, let me write it over here in the next page. In OOPS, you have few concepts like basically Java. If I talk about Java first, Java is divided into two parts. Okay. That is your basic Java, and another one is your advanced Java. Now in basic Java, you came across few concepts, and in advanced Java you came across some of the topics. So in basic Java you have OOPS concepts that are generally like you can assume uh, let me write it like in a while. After, like, you have classes and object also, classes and objects. You have data types. All right, all these concepts you have in basic Java. These topics you will actually study in advanced Java. Like let me just do it again. Now now if I talk about Java environment, basically the content of Java, if I talk about, so this is divided into two parts. That is your basic Java, and another one is your advanced Java. So in basic Java you study about some basic features of Java. For example, uh, how you will write variables, okay, how you will write you know data types, okay, how you will create any object, how to work with classes. Like that, you will be having some concept in basic Java. And also there is one more concept called the OOPS concept. So inside OOPS you have some topics that you can that is very important to understand. For example, you have encapsulation, you have polymorphism, you have inheritance, you have abstraction. Okay. So like that, these are the basically this topics basically. uh, by using these concepts you can create behaviors. Okay. You can create behaviors that represent real world scenarios. Okay. That represent real world scenarios. For example, uh, for example, this inheritance feature. So let me write it again. Inheritance. Okay. So this inheritance feature basically represent parent child relation. Okay. Represent parent child relation. This encapsulation feature basically represent uh, uh, some where, by which you can set and get some data. Okay. You can set and get some data. It can also be useful in the case of security up to a level. Okay, so we'll discuss about these things like later in the in detail in the Java lectures, but for now we are just going to focus on mainly on objects and classes for this course. Okay, because this is going to we are going to use the concept of object and classes we are going to use in our next topic. All right, if I talk about advanced Java, here you will have for example multi-threading concepts. Okay, where you will study about the different types of thread creations and how to communicate between two threads, like that you study over here. Now there is another topic called the collection. So this is a kind of a framework you can consider, where you study about, this is very important topic, like where you study about different types of data containers in which you can store multiple data sets. For example, list view, right? Basically different types of data structures you can assume, which are ready-made data structure. This defines ready-made data structures that you can use for your application development, used in application development, any application development, whether you are working with backend or whether you are working with front end. This is the common feature that we are going to do, but we are actually studying the internal concepts of this data structure. We are actually trying to create a data structure using our own concepts. Okay, so like that we are going to use these classes and object topics in our next lecture. Now there are few things, like if you see, a class can be represented like that, class. Okay, this could be my test class. Okay, and inside this class you will having a main method, just like any other programming language. It is having a main method, something like this: public static void main. So this will take some dynamic arguments, a dynamic input array type, and this is going to run it first. This main method is going to run it first. Okay, now there could be another class. For example, assume this test represent a kind of a front-end application, test app, assume. Okay, and now there is another class, let's suppose a bank class. Okay, now this bank class could have some variables like integer, amount, like that. Okay, and this amount could hold some values inside it, some integer value, like that. I'm just writing a general data sets over here just to show you that how to represent anything inside a class. All right, you can have a method called for example, a method that will return some amount from this bank class. For example, a method that will gives me amount, and I will name it like get money. Okay, so over here I can return some money, this amount basically. Okay, so like that I can get some money, or I can I can have another method inside this which will going to deposit money. Okay, so here I can pass some value which could be my integer type of a value. All right, through this parameter, so int x, and I can assign this x to my amount, like that. Okay, so like this I can design any class. Okay, now similarly, now what will happen if I want to print this amount? What should I do for that? Let's suppose I'm running this code. this test app, basically, let's suppose I'm running in my phone, okay, and I want to or assume this test app. Let's suppose if I write like this, the name of the class will be bank app. Okay, I'm running a bank application. Now if I want to access my account, and if I want to fetch the amount, basically, okay, so I need access to this get money over here, okay, so that it can return me, it can show me some amount. But I can also call this amount directly, the variable. But if I use this over here, okay, now first thing is how to call this bank. Okay, how to call this bank. So there is two ways, like you can call it, but let me talk about some object. Okay, how to create an object, basically, what is the meaning of object. Okay, so what you will do, you will create an object of this bank class. Okay, you will create that object over here. Okay, create bank object, and using that object you have access to its behavior, basically all the things which are present inside a bank. Okay, so by using that object you can call any method. So let's create a object. Okay, so I can create a object like that. I will say new. Now new keyword, this is a keyword new, that will gives me some kind of a memory for the object. Okay, and I will say I want this for my bank. Okay, this memory is for my bank class, and here I'm going to initialize like that. Okay, now this will gives me object of bank class, so I will name it any name I can keep, like B, and this B is basically represent bank object. Okay, just like you have a integer I, integer X, string name, so like that you have a B that is having bank type of a nature. Okay, now if I say, if on this object, now I can call B dot, if I write like that, it will give me access to get money. It will gives me access to get money. In return it will gives me was integer type of data. Okay, it will gives me integer type of data. So when I write like that, okay, it will gives me amount. So my amount will be A, which will be integer type, and then I can print it out something like this: system dot out dot println. Like that I can print my amount. Okay, okay, like that I can print it. Now I can access any behavior inside the bank class using the object. So this is my object, basically. If you look over here, this is my object. All right, bank B, this is my object. All right, similarly you will create any object for any type of a class that you have created. All right, and you can access the functionality inside it. Okay, like that. So when you access anything, okay, so using a for example, using method like this get money. Okay, so this is called a getter type of a functionality, means you are getting something from the class using the object. Okay, so this is called your getter. Okay, this B dot get money, if I write like that, let me write it. This B dot get money, if you are doing, so this method that you have called over here, that is called the getter. Okay, and let's suppose I want to deposit my money. So what you will do, in the main method only, in this main method only, what you will do, you will, using the same object, you will write like that. You will write B dot money, sorry, b dot deposit money, you will call this method, okay, on the same object b, and you will say I want to deposit some x amount, some 1,000 rupees or like that, okay. So this will deposit your money. So at this point of time, this is actually acting like a this calling basically that you do. You have called this on a where you basically you are overriding your amount over here. All right. So this is a kind of a setter. This plays a role of a setter. Okay. This method playing a role of setter. So this functionality that you see, setting the data, getting the data, this comes in the topic of encapsulation. Basically, you are dealing with data right now. Okay. Now you can also increase the code level security by providing some validation over here. So that is a different point. Like you can put some if else cases when you get the when you want to retrieve the money. You can set some password, like you can create some, you can create some integer type of a password over here, and you can set some password 1 2 3 4 like that, any password which will be private type, this amount is also private type, okay. Otherwise you can have access to it directly. So these private means access modifiers. These are called access modifiers, where you can increase your code level security for any variable. So if anything is private in any class, okay, for example, if any method is also private, your variable can also be private. So that method or variable cannot be accessed outside of a class using the object also. All right. So this method or this variable which is in private, that you cannot access using this b object. Using this b object, you cannot access this amount and password directly. So to access this, what I have done, I have created a public type of a method which is a get money. This will return me integer type of a value which is my amount, and that method I can access using my b object. Okay, here like this, b dot get money. All right. So this is how you can increase the code level security by providing some access modifiers to your code. Also you can provide, now when you have this amount and the password, you can provide some validation over here, something like if my password, you can send some password value over here p, and you can check if p is equals to my password which is present in bank. If that case satisfy, then only you will return your amount. Okay, so like that you can assign so many validations. So this increase your code level security. So this is all, like this is the basic things that I want to tell about. I just want to show you how you can write your code basically. So how you can define your class, and like from the main method how the program executes, how to create any object. So like that we have covered in this part. Now when you run your this code, when you run your code is going to, you have to build this project basically. Okay, you have to build this project. Now when you build this project, okay, you have to do you have to save this file. What file? This bank app that you have created over here, you have to save this file, something like bankapp.java, bankapp.java. This is a Java file basically. Okay, you will save this file like that, and you have to run this file. Then only your this main method that you see over here, this main method is going to execute. Okay, so when this main method is going to execute, it will be executed by the code inside. It will be executed by main thread, main Java thread you can consider. Okay, this will be executed by your main Java thread. Okay, this main Java thread will execute every line in your code. Okay, but before that there are some of the things that is going to happen when you save this bank app. Okay, this bank app is going to get compiled. Okay, get compiled. Now in the compilation process, it is going to check everything for you, and it is going to create a file. That file will be a kind of a, you can say a kind of a special file that actually having a symbol representation. Actually your full code is now get converted into a kind of a byte code basically. Okay, and this file will create a dot class file. Okay, this is a format of a dot. So this thing is actually when you compile the file, when you compile your bank app, this thing is going to happen. Okay, your bank app.java will convert it into bank app.class. Okay, dot class type. Okay, so just to represent over here, I have designed this Java runtime execution over here like that. Okay, so initially you will be having a bank class that you can see it over here. Okay, so this class represent your bank class. Okay, which is a .java file. When you compile it, you surrender this file to your compiler. Okay, compiler will compile this file and it will convert this file into dot class format. Okay, this dot class format is nothing but your byte code. This represent byte code. This is this code cannot be understand, or this cannot be, we as a human we cannot understand what is actually written. These are special symbols and some special characters will be there inside this file, which is we cannot understand this as a human. Okay, now this file is very much important. This file, this bytecode file is very much important. Why? Because this is platform independent. This is platform independent code. Means you can copy this dot class file, and you can from your computer, and you can take that file anywhere in the world. Okay, anywhere in the world, and you can execute this bytecode or this file basically to that computer using this Java runtime environment only. All right, so we'll discuss about this in a while more, but let's see what will happen next. So when you get this dot class file, okay, when you get this dot class file, this class file also called Wora, like WORA, write once. This means write once, run anywhere. Okay, so we'll see why it is called like that. Okay, but let's discuss it further. What is the next thing that will happen? Then this dot class file is going to given to your JRE environment, and this JRE environment contains few of the things like interpreter. Okay, contains interpreter. This interpreter with the help of JIT compiler. So there is a JIT compiler that will using this JIT compiler, this interpreter will convert this dot class file in your now this thing, if I after this step, if I place a separator over here, now this is your machine environment. Now this represent machine environment. Okay, this represent your machine environment over here after this. Okay, so your dot class file that maybe you have got it from some other computer outside of your machine environment, this dot class file, or you have generated in your computer only, this dot class file is going to execute in your system. How? Using the JRE environment. Now JRE will have some components like interpreter, okay, and JVM. This interpreter and JVM is going to play a key role for execution of this dot class file. Interpreter will take this dot class file using the JIT compiler. Okay, it will convert this dot class file into machine code. Okay, so this is our machine level code. Machine code. Okay, machine level code. So this machine level code is human cannot understand this. Okay, human cannot understand this code. Basically it is for machine level, for hardware level basically. All right, on this machine level code, now JVM is going to perform its action by executing the main thread that will responsible for that will be responsible for executing your logics or your classes that is having internal functions, whatever the things that you have written in your program, that is going to execute by JVM. Now in that process of doing so, JVM, based on your code that you have written, based on your code, JVM will allocate, JVM will allocate, or JVM will define memory segments. Okay, based on your program, JVM will provide memory to your program, basically, you can consider. Okay, so in that process, you, with the help of JRE, JVM is going to define some area in your RAM. So this is your RAM, basically. Okay, this is your RAM area where your program is going to work, basically where your program is going to execute. So using this JVM is going to basically take this machine code, and it's going to initialize every variable, every class, or every object that you have created. So in this memory segment, so you have main 4 segments that you can consider. You have a class segment. Okay, I will just write it over here. You have a class level segment. Okay, you have a static segment, you have a stack segment. Okay, and you can have a heap memory segment. So these are basically memory segments. Okay, these segments is going to give memory to your code that you have written, and every logic that you are going to execute with respect to any data variable or any object, that is going to create over here. So what actually happens when your object created like that you see over here? I have created an object over here, a bank object. Okay, this bank object, when created, what actually happens at this point of time? Okay, over here in this green area that you see, that represents a RAM area. Okay, so if you take it like that, you can just further remember, you can take .java taken given to compiler will convert into .class, then again given to the interpreter converts this .class into machine level code, and then JVM will do its job for further execution. Okay, so this is like the complete runtime environment. Hopefully you have understood. You can revise it if you have not picked it somewhere, or if you get confused, you can revise it again and you can look upon it. Now if I talk about object creation, what actually happening now? Inside main, you have a class like that, some bank class. Okay, inside bank class you are having a main method. I will write it in a short, PSVM. Okay, public static void main. Now you are creating an object over here like that. You are saying new. Okay, you are saying new. When you write new keyword, okay, when you write new keyword, a memory block will be created inside heap memory. So I'll just copy this part. Let me just design it over here again. Let's suppose this is your RAM. Inside RAM you are having this block of memory which is created for your program execution. So you are having these segments over here. All right, so this is your heap segment on the top. All right, this is your class segment, this is your static segment, this is your stack segment. Like that you have different segments. Now when you write new keyword, okay, when you write new keyword, a block of memory is going to create over here for you. Okay, now this block of memory is not clear till now. What is this for? So you will say this block of memory is for my class bank. Okay, which class? This class. Okay, now JVM will loads this class. JVM is going to load this class into class segment over here, bank type of a class, has been loaded inside class. Okay, has been loaded inside class segment. Now this thing has been clear. This thing has been clear. But after this, if you see, when I created the object, I use these two brackets. I use these two brackets. When I write these two brackets, and after that I close the line using semicolon. No, before that I have written these two brackets like that, bank and these brackets. So after writing this bank, I loaded my bank class into the class segment. As I write this brackets like that over here, okay, that means this bank class is now referring to this bank class is now referring to this block of code, block of memory. Okay, that means my class got some memory over here. Okay, my class got some memory over here in the inside heap. So heap area could be a larger area you can consider, where you can create a larger memory section. Okay, so for my bank class I have created this block of memory which is now linked with this object. But currently this reference that you have created, this reference that you have created, we don't have access to this memory block. Currently we don't have access to this memory block basically. Okay, so how you can have access to it? By creating the variable. Okay, by creating the variable. So let's assign this reference to some variable like b. Okay, and this b is nothing but a bank type only. Okay, so when I write b over here, so this is a kind the total reference actually is assigned to this b only. Okay, so this means that in the stack memory over here, in the stack memory, I will be having a b like that. I will be having a b. Okay, and this b is actually pointing to this memory block. This b is now pointing to this memory block. Okay, are you getting my point? Now this, using this b, I have, if I write, I can have access to this behavior for this class now. All right, so I can just update this little bit. So this memory block is now having a object that we have created, which is referring by b variable. Okay, so b is ultimately it is referring to a this memory block which is actually a bank type. So I have tell that this b is of bank type. Okay, so like that you can at the memory level you can have so many variables that is referring to the same class. So you can create a different object for that. For example, I can create another object like b2 that is also referring to this bank class. So this is now we have created another object of that. Okay, so over that I can have b2, so a different memory will be created for this, for my b2, like that, and this memory is going to refer to this block of memory. Okay, so like that you can have different set of blocks you can create by using this new keyword. All right, which is pointing to some, or which is referring to some class internally. Okay, so when you write this brackets over here, actually you are connecting your block of memory with the memory your class basically linked with that particular memory section. Okay, so this is one thing. Okay, now as you write these brackets after this bank class that you have seen just now, when you write this bracket, as we have discussed, we are actually linking that particular memory, a new memory that we have created. We are actually linking that memory with the bank only. Okay, so when you write this bracket, you are linking that memory. That means you are actually creating a reference for this bank class. So in that perspective, this, after writing this bracket, that means you are actually creating a constructor call. You are actually creating a constructor that is being created for you. Means what is that actually constructor? In at memory level, you have seen that you are actually linking a memory part, block of memory. You are actually linking with this bank class. When you write these brackets, you are linking that memory with this bank class. So this is how like a constructor is created for you. Like memory, at memory level, this is the meaning of this thing. But in code, the constructor of bank class will be get called. So this representation, the linking of memory, is actually represented through a block of memory. So every class, for example, this is your class bank. So every class is having a default constructor, something like this, bank. This is called the default constructor. Okay, and when this bracket that you have written over here, that when it is start linking the memory with this bank class, then actually this constructor is going to get execute over here. Okay, so initially whenever you create any reference for this bank class, it's constructor being called. Okay, it's constructor being called at the time when you link your memory, a newly created memory. When linked to this class, this constructor, a block of constructor, is going to get called. This constructor you generally don't see in any class. This is a default constructor. Okay, this is a default constructor, but you can have your parameterized constructor also, where you can pass some data to this. Okay, where you can pass this some data to this constructor, and you can catch that data over here in this like a method, you see when you pass any parameter. Just like that, you can pass any value to this constructor and you can catch it over here. So this constructor is going to get called initially when any object, when any reference or when you link the memory block with the bank class or any class, this constructor is being get called. I hope this makes sense now. All right, so at the memory level you have also understood, and at the code level also you have also understood what happens actually when this constructor has been called. All right, so this is like the overall picture when any object created at the memory level. This is how the internal things are happening, like when you create any object. So when you create any object, that means there is a lot of memory execution is happening behind the scene. So you have to be very much careful while writing your code. So this gives a baseline for your concept, so that at the time of when you are creating any object, you have to be take care, like you have to be very much aware that this object should be removed from the memory also. So in Java, there we have a concept called garbage collection. So this garbage collection, in short, this is a different topic. In short, we call GC. So this GC is actually handling all the cleaning of the memory working, or all right, all the work which is related to the memory availability. This garbage collection is going to take care for that. It is internally going to, when any reference is you have removed, or any program you have executed, but you have forgot to remove the object memory. In that case, this garbage collection is going to clear that memory in the heap, in the stack. All right, it will remove that reference for you. This thing works automatically internally, so you don't have to take care about that. This is just for the information. I hope this point makes sense now. All right, what is actually happening internally. This diagram is going to very much useful in future references also. Now, why we are using this topic, classes and object, why we are using it? See, the next topic that we are going to study, that is your linked list. Linked list, we are going to create, and trees. Okay, these two topics we have to study now. So in linked list, okay, if you have previously studied the linked list, this linked list is look like something like this. There could be one node, and there will be another node which is connected by the previous node. Like that you have different nodes. All right, n number of nodes could be there. All right, so these nodes basically we have to design these nodes using class and objects. Means you will design these nodes just like a class, where it could have some data also, some data like a b c d data kind of. All right, it could hold some data, but it will also take care of reference to the next node also, like this that you see. So this is the reference that you are creating to the next node. So this referencing, to do this referencing, you need some type of a pattern that could only solve using the concept of classes and object. Okay, so in C we used to do this by using pointers. So in C programming we have pointers, where we used to connect one node with the another node. All right, but here in Java we don't have pointer concept, we use object concept. So here in Java we have an object concept that is used to link your one node 1 with another node n2, like that, and so on. Similarly applies for trees also. All right, so in the next class we are going to study this linked list. We will create this linked list using the concept of class. Just like we have created a bank class, we will create a node class, and that node class is going to have some variables and the reference for the next node also. So this is all for this class. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.